Bitcoin, Ethereum technical analysis, BTC, ETH start week lower. Ahead of key economic events, Bitcoin started the week trading in the red, as markets prepared for an important week of U.S. economic events. On Wednesday, the Federal Reserve is expected to increase rates by 25 basis points, with non-farm payrolls for April being released this coming Friday. Ethereum was also lower in today's session overall. Bitcoin remains nearly 4% higher than at the same point last week, when prices were close to the $27,000 mark. As a result of today's sell-off, the relative strength index.
And it's kind of easy to see why, because those that got in early in the crypto market basically saw it go from nothing to a $2 trillion market cap in a little over a decade. But crypto continues to be highly volatile even as it pushes into the mainstream. And I was really interested to see where the market was going, especially as it gets more attention from consumers and government regulators. So I turned to Laura Shin. She's the host of the Unchained podcast. And as former senior editor at Forbes, she was really one of the first mainstream journalists to start covering cryptocurrency. And in her new book, The Cryptopians, she takes a really deep dive into the people and the history behind the crypto.
Journalists to start covering crypto. And can you just talk a little bit about where you think crypto is in this moment?
Oh, wow. I would say it's probably in the mainstream adoption phase. Just in this past year alone, we've seen so many celebrities and sports people, and Tom Brady's getting into it. Ashton Kutcher made a show where you need to own an NFT to watch the show. Reese Witherspoon is tweeting about crypto. So it definitely feels like this moment where it's just kind of hit a certain, level of consciousness in the mainstream that didn't exist before.
As you communicate these ideas to people, because I do think a lot of mainstream people out there don't really still understand the technology, like what's the challenge with that, and how do you best describe, what's happening in this space?
I would say, so there's a very common kind of maxim that is often tweeted. People say Web 1 is read only, Web 2 is read and write. And by that, they mean instead of just, reading information, you can also now post on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And then the third, which is Web 3, which is what crypto people say that they're building, is read, write, and own. And so an NFT is a good example of that, or Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? Like you can own those assets. The other thing, and this to me is what's really revolutionary about these technologies, they enable groups of people to coordinate in, as we were saying, a decentralized fashion, meaning, for kind of the past however many decades where we've had this internet cycle of, everybody talks about the startup and it's all about startups. The way that works is there's executives, they have a board, and then they hire different people to do the work. But in crypto, there's no CEO. There's no CEO of Bitcoin. There's no CEO of Ethereum. Even though Vitalik Buterin is the creator, he's not dictating things. If he went away, and this is just my opinion, Ethereum would continue on. There's certainly thousands of people in the world who are working on it. So it kind of doesn't matter whether or not he's around. And, these are decentralized networks that have now grown into, I think right now all crypto markets are a $2 trillion asset class. And so, it's just fascinating to see that they're growing based on this token that's incentivizing all these behaviors. Like Bitcoin, the way that it secures the network is by rewarding people who add security in it with Bitcoin. And Ethereum does the same. If you add security to the network, you will just get new coins. And, the fact that you can do that without, the management board and the executive telling people, okay, this is your job and this, I'm going to pay you these benefits and, salary, whatever. That's a really new thing. And so one other way to think about what it is that crypto people are building is there are these little democracies, and they're ruled by the token holders. The token holders will vote based on how many tokens they have. And then they'll, there will be different proposals that come up in them, and then people will vote with the tokens, I support or I don't support. And that's how a lot of them are getting governed nowadays. And so it's just, it's really cool to watch, but it's just a new thing in history to have people organize in that fashion.
Yeah. And, we've really seen this explosion of people investing in these assets. We've seen a bunch of these ETFs popping up. I think, things like Coinbase have really kind of helped bring the adoption of this. What do you think is the next step as far as building platforms that are user friendly?
Yeah, user friendliness is at a very low point, I would say, because it's so new. The technology is kind of like, you could say they almost just barely work. And at the moment, I don't know if you know that on Ethereum, if you try to transact right now, the gas fees are very high. It's like typically kind of, I don't know, maybe like $100 or at least dozens of dollars to do these basic transactions. So it kind of just prices out a lot of people. And that's really just, frankly, there's more demand than there is block space, as we call it, like just for the throughput, the number of transactions that you can have per second. There's just more demand than there is availability. So the community is working on all that. And until the scaling solutions are available and working and safe, we're probably not going to have a super user-friendly experience. And like I said, it's going to be something that is better for people who have a lot of money to spend. And on top of that, it probably depends on how old you are, but if you remember what AOL was like back in the dial-up days, like that's probably where we're at right now when it comes to crypto. I know a lot of people are working on the usability issues. But frankly, if it's even things like around security, like it's very hard to secure your coins. And a lot of the people that have the really good services for that, they pay a lot of money for it. And it's just not something that's like super accessible to everybody. And if you're going to do it on your own, like, I mean, you really need